I've always believed that when someone dies, it's over. No spirit, no afterlife, no second chances. But the night a body showed up at the crematory without a name, without paperwork, and without warning, I realized some things don't burn the way they should. And what stays behind is far worse than a ghost. It's a scream that keeps coming back, long after the fire has gone out. My name is Daniel Hayes. I'm 32. I was out of work, behind on rent, and desperate when I took the job. A friend from high school worked at a funeral home and told me their affiliated crematory needed someone for the night shift. Quiet work, decent pay. All I had to do was monitor the furnace, log entries, clean up, and process bodies when they came in. Alone, all night, no interruptions. It sounded like the perfect deal. The crematory sat just outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, surrounded by a dying tree line and a rusted chain-link fence. It looked like an old public school. One story, flat roof, red brick walls faded with time. The inside smelled like bleach and cold air. Everything was old, the vinyl floor, the lights, even the clipboard on the front desk looked like it had been there since the 90s. The first few nights were uneventful. I swept floors, wiped down the gurneys, and read mystery novels between body deliveries. Occasionally, I'd load someone into the chamber, start the process, and file the paperwork. I followed every protocol. Double-check ID tags, match documentation, record times and temperatures, and carefully handle the ashes afterward. But one night, October 3rd, I remember it clearly, everything changed. That night, the delivery was different. It was around 11:40 p.m. I had just brewed a cup of coffee and stepped outside for a smoke. The air was sharp and cold, and the night sky was clear enough to see stars. When I stepped back in, something was off. A gurney was standing in the hallway outside the furnace room. I hadn't seen or heard anyone enter. I was the only person with the key, and the front door was locked, still chained from the inside. The gurney held a body bag, black, standard issue, but it had no toe tag, no clipboard, no delivery form. I stared at it for a long time. My hands were already starting to sweat. I walked over, hesitated, and finally unzipped it halfway. Inside was a man, middle-aged. His skin looked half-burnt, raw in some places, ash-gray in others. The strangest part? His mouth was open, frozen in what looked like a scream. His eyes were bloodshot and open wide, as if he had died looking directly into something terrifying. There was no name, no documentation, just a body. Part of me wanted to leave it alone, shut the door, and walk out, but my mind kept repeating protocol. I told myself maybe someone dropped it off earlier and forgot to log it. Maybe the receptionist made a mistake. So I loaded the gurney into the furnace. I said the little line I always do, rest in peace. Then I closed the chamber, turned on the system, and pressed ignite. That's when I heard the scream. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't the furnace. It was human. It was him. The scream was muffled but clear, coming from inside the chamber. Then there was pounding. Something was slamming against the door from the inside. Once, twice, again. My chest locked up. My stomach flipped. I slammed the emergency stop button. The flames died. The pounding stopped. For a full minute, I couldn't move. Finally, I gathered the courage to open the chamber door. It was empty, not partially cremated, not bones, nothing. Clean, no trace of anything ever being inside. I stumbled backward, barely able to breathe. I checked the chamber's temperature. It had only run for 47 seconds. Not nearly long enough to turn a body to ash, and yet there was nothing left. I should have left right then, called the police, quit, but I didn't. Instead, I walked back to the office, locked the door, and sat with my head in my hands. That's when the lights flickered, and then the smell. It was faint at first, like burnt meat and sulfur, but it grew stronger, thicker, until the room was swimming in it. And then came the whisper. It came from the vent. One word, finish. I jumped to my feet, I didn't sleep that night. When morning came, I left without saying a word. I took 2 days off and told the manager I had the flu. I didn't tell him what happened. I couldn't, but I had to know if it was real. So before my next shift, I checked the logbook in the office. A new entry had appeared, written in black ink in handwriting that wasn't mine. October 3rd, D. Mercer, 11:42 p.m. I stared at the name. Dennis Mercer. That name sounded familiar. I Googled it, found an article from a year ago, house fire. Man died in a gas explosion. Body never recovered. Presumed burned alive. No cremation ever scheduled. I kept reading the article, my eyes blurring. That name, that scream, the half-burnt skin. It was him. Dennis Mercer was the man I burned, or tried to. But if his body had never been recovered, how did he end up on my gurney? I didn't want to return that night, but I did. Same place, same time. Everything looked normal until I checked the fridge unit. He was there again. Same body, same open eyes. This time, sitting up, as if he'd been waiting. I zipped the bag shut and locked the fridge. I wanted to quit. I wrote a resignation letter and left it on my manager's desk. But before I could walk out, the crematory's back door creaked open on its own. Cold air poured in, and in the silence I heard footsteps, wet, heavy, dragging. I didn't look back. I ran, drove home, didn't sleep. A few days later, the manager called me. He didn't mention my resignation. Instead, he asked me to come in. "Has he come to you too?" he asked. I said nothing. He continued, "Mercer, he's not done. The furnace didn't finish him." That's when he told me the truth. I wasn't the first. Years ago, a body half cremated in a house fire had been brought in with missing paperwork. A tech burned it anyway. It screamed, disappeared, then started returning. Always at night, always halfway between life and ash. The retort didn't just cremate the dead, it trapped them if it wasn't done right. And Mercer, he wanted to be finished, one final time. So I went back. I wheeled his body to the chamber, lit a candle beside the gurney and said, "We'll finish it, Dennis, this time all the way." I opened the chamber, loaded him in. I turned the temperature to maximum, higher than standard protocol. The chamber roared. The flames grew taller, louder, almost alive. I heard one last scream, not pain, not terror, relief. Then silence. When I opened the door, all that remained was ash. It was over, or so I thought. 3 nights later, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a small jar of ash and a single note written in that same black ink. 11:42 p.m., one more time.